But I better be mindful with the jokes. It's all love. But I remember, like I said, I spent my family a lot of time in Philly. I remember the slogan in Philly was "the city of brotherly love," and I was in Philly. I thought that was sarcasm. You know, Philly was no joke back then. I remember Philly. My earliest memories of Philly was like how almost every street was named after a tree. Like you go down Chestnut and you keep going down, you pass Walnut, you go down, you avoid Elm, go past Cedar. I'm like, what's going to happen when you run out of trees? You going to start using plants? You get to Spruce Street, you go by Ray's Barbershop and you take that poinsettia side street, until you get to Dandelion Alley. I remember cheesesteaks were known as hoagies. I mean, that's how far back I go. And I was a big comic book collector. And I remember the mom and pop corner stores, they would sell like 2 comic books in a pristine plastic wrap, but with the covers of the comic books ripped off. I don't know, maybe they couldn't sell it legally that way. But you get these awesome comics, these vintage comic books nowadays that would be worth a lot of money that was sold to you brand new, damaged. Because Philly was no joke. Actually, remember Easter, I was there in 1986 during the Easter vacation in Philly, and my family lived on Carpenter Street. And I go to Philly, I go with a basketball, and I cross the street, the Cobb's Creek, just to use the basketball court. That year, my grandparents told me I can't go outside to play basketball for the whole vacation. Because 4 or 5 blocks over, there was a group called Operation Move that was causing a stir, apparently. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to go 4 or 5 blocks over. I'm just going to go across the street and shoot some hoops. Hey, if they come to the basketball court, I'll move. My grandmother wouldn't let me go out. So I'm like, is this how I'm going to spend my whole vacation? Being immobile because of move? But so whenever, like, you see your cousins, like whenever I go to Philly, I see my cousin Jay, and he had DJ equipment. And he's from Philly, so I'm like, hey, Jay, Jazzy Jeff? Is Jazzy Jeff doing any parties we can go to? And cousin Jay is like, yeah, just because Jeff lives in Philly doesn't mean I know him. Dr. J plays for the Philadelphia 76ers. I don't hang out with him either. I'm like, well, of course not. Your layups get muffed every time you come in the lane. Now, worst part about that, unfortunate part, is the next month after that, the police and government actually made Operation Move quite literally and damaged the whole neighborhood as they decided to drop a bomb, literally drop a bomb in the neighborhood to remove the situation only to make a worse situation. I mean, did you really think this through? To permanently alter lives? Like, how do you plan to solve that? The aftermath, the shattered lives and dreams. Who do the police think they're going to pick up the pieces? Apparently, they must have thought the coroner. Yeah, that's like the saddest moment that I've personally had to go witness in Philly. So I like to say rest in peace to everyone who lost their life during that time for that. All done by officials, official thugs. But I learned from Philly that Philly was thugged out anyway at an early age. Like the houses there, or in that area I was in, they're all semi-attached, and the garage was like on the inside of the block. So the garage from Carpenter Street faced the garage on Christian Street, which was behind it. Like between the block, you have this middle alleyway for the garages, And I'm like 10 or 11, and I had this black BMX bike, sorry. And I was so happy about it because the bike had handbrakes, which was only something that you got on like 10 or 12 speed bikes. So, back then you wanted to stop a bike, you had to pedal backwards, which just ended up breaking your neck. So this was like innovative. So I'm riding my bike around the block and around the block, try to be fancy. I try to cut through the alleyway when 2 guys come out and jump in front of my bike and ask to get a ride on my bike. And I was like, well, I'm not finished riding yet. Now I knew what they were attempting, but I thought, being like they were like 18 or 20, they'd feel guilty for trying to rob a kid. Not Philadelphians. They started pulling the bike with me on it, trying to push me off it. And being a kid with a witty mouth didn't help because panic-stricken wit just upsets gangsters, Because I was just trying to ask questions like, well, how are you both going to ride it? Wouldn't that look kind of questionable? So now the guy's getting mad and one of them pulls out a weapon on a kid. He said he's going to use it on me. This is like, if you don't get off this bike, I'm going to mess you up. Me still being innocent. I'm like, so you're trying to rob me? I know, right? Attempted robbery in a street alley, in a street between Christian and Carpenter. Well, obviously these people didn't know Jesus. But when you're in peril and your life flashes before your eyes, and when you're 10, it just goes by really quick, you know. I'm just thinking in my mind like, man, I never had a dog. I'm gonna miss cartoons. I had to learn to walk. I was knock-kneed. I had to wear heavy braces on my leg for a whole year. I moved around like I was baby RoboCop. But being a comedian, you know, I always had like this innate acting ability. So while they're trying to pull me off the bike, I'm like looking behind them like I'm looking at something and just in a focused dead space. And they're looking at what I'm looking at. So I just spoke into dead space. And I was like, yeah, I think they're trying to rob me. So they must have got nervous and let go of the bike to turn around and see who I was talking about. And when they let go and start turning around, I rode straight through them. And I am racing home. You know, you heard this, put the pedal to the metal? Yeah. And they running behind me, but I'm on a bike, so of course I'm going to have a lead. But I get to my stoop and I jump off the bike and, you know, I'm running up the steps of the bike and I get into the door and they get up to the bottom of the stoop and they hear them yelling like, yeah, you better not tell nobody, you know, and you better not tell your father. Which now in retrospect, I should have told my father because everyone in the neighborhood was afraid of my father. But in my mind, I was like, yo, these thugs know where I live. I ain't saying jack or riding the bike ever again. But now my grandmother's asking, hey, you gonna ride your bike today? Like, no, I'm good. And she wouldn't let up. Like, oh, why don't you go out today and ride your bike? It's nice out. Like, no, I don't feel like riding. But she kept on. She kept acting on, like, thinking like she's trying to punk me, you know. It's been a whole week. Aren't you going to ride your bike? It's been a while since you rode it. Do you want me to come out so you can ride your bike? Like, hey, I don't want to ride this stupid bike. I'm good. So now my grandmother's like, oh, it's a stupid bike, huh? Well, I guess we just going to have to get you a brand new, more awesome bike so you can show it off. I'm like, lady, you trying to get me killed? I'm going to need a bulletproof bike that comes with a posse. I've never been on a bike since, you know. I ride an exercising bike with a machete now, you know, just in case something pop off. And it's my exercising bike. You know. Even a scooter would give me PTSD. But that was the Philly life, boy. Philly is the first time I heard the word brolic. You know, I heard brolic. I thought it was just an adjective of Philly. Perfect example, hanging out with my cousin Noel in his neighborhood to play basketball. Like back then, when I would play basketball, I was a kid. I was playing basketball every day. You know, I had a little handle. I had a deep jump shot. I could hold my own on the court. But that's in New York. You go to the court in Philly, you know, it's a whole different ball game. You know, like New York, you play a game called 21. In Philly, the game of 21 is called, or was called, or it's called Rough House, which is if you ever saw the movie The Longest Yard, imagine it with basketball. It's like 21, but with no calls. So let's just say they play rather enthusiastically. So I'm like, I got a handle, you know, like I'm driving to the lane and I get hit to the ground, you know, and I call foul. And the person that shoved me to the ground is going to ask, how was that a foul? And I'm like, because I'm bleeding, miss, you know, and she going to catch an attitude. You know? Like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, there's your tooth. You know, and that's like the norm there. They referring to my cousin Noel. Like, yo, what's up with your cousin? Like, oh, he lives with his mom in New York. Now, I don't know if they still play Rough House down there. I don't even know if it's changed, you know, but back then it was rough. You know, I can just see it now. Foul. Foul? What do you mean foul? Like, you hit me with the butt of your gun. But did I shoot you? No, then it's not a foul. You know. And that's what happened, you know. I get in one slight altercation and the family got scared and said, you're going back to the Bronx with your mom to prepare for the witness relocation program. But then again, sutures and blood transfusions. But to be home, you know, 'cause I had geeky friends, you know, geeky friends I had, you know, who all understood the importance of comic books.